Hi everyone, we are now in phase 5 of the corona lockdown in India, and it looks like it's going to be a long haul. So we decided that we should bring some information about mental health that people have been asking about a lot lately. I think especially since the lockdown, people have been facing a lot of anxiety at home. There are tempers that are flaring, and of course, while the podcast, the video that we're recording just now is going to be useful during corona times, this is a topic that we've been asked about so many times because it concerns nutrition and mental health. Is there a connection, and how can we actually foster better mental health, better moods, better energy through nutrition? So to do that, I'm joined by my co-founder Sharda Agarwal, who is nutrition therapy practitioner from the Nutrition Therapy Association. She's also somebody who's qualified in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, which is a technique that is used to help people reframe situations and look at them more objectively so they have less anxiety, better power, etc. And of course, she's also certified in batch flower remedies, which is a subset of homeopathy, and it's something that is used to help people manage moods a whole lot better. So welcome, Sharda.
Thank you, Mahesh. I just love this particular video that we're doing for a very specific reason, because all along, every time I've spoken personally on nutrition, or we've done work on nutrition at Sepalika publicly on social media platforms, it's always been in the context of, using diet to help people lose weight, somebody to gain weight, helping people, lower their cholesterol, get off certain medication, etc. So it's always been in that space. But mental health and its connection to nutrition is something, first of all, is quite unfamiliar to most people, because the moment you talk about moods, depression, and mental health, for everyone, it's about either going to a counselor, a psychiatrist, or it's about going on to prescription medication. And, the fascinating thing is there's so much research and there's so much evidence and there's so much work and experience that, you and I have seen with our clients at Sepalika, where just by working around people's diet, their nutrition plans, and getting those missing nutrients into their bodies, we can see this amazing change in their moods and depression, right? So, that's why, this thing is very special. But before actually we get into the details, a quick introduction to Mahesh. Not only is he a co-founder, but what's really fascinating about Mahesh is that he uses multiple modalities, not just out of experience, but also because he's qualified in them. He is an emotional freedom technique, or EFT practitioner. He is qualified in acupressure, which is the ancient Indian and Chinese system of medicine that we've used. He's also qualified in neuro-linguistic programming, in nutrition, and so he brings together, I think that's the nice part, which is depending on what the person or individual comes to us with, that's the modality that he uses. Before we actually start getting into this actual discussion, I just want to point out that when we talk about mental health, we're not talking about things like, aaj mood nahi bana, or I'm not in a mood, I'm not in a good mood today, because that's not really a mental health issue, because we all get into bad days once in a while. We're also not talking about, in our recommendation, asking anyone to switch out of prescription medication or to stop seeing their counselor or a therapist. That's not something that we would advocate at Sepalika. Our focus, however, is for people where they are seeing this, mood nahi bana consistently, or day after day, or you see that your child is very listless, disinterested either in academics or in social life, or you find that you're not able to generate that energy, or let's say the enthusiasm, or even getting into the frame of mind to work, to go to work, and it's not as if you have an issue with your boss or with the job per se. So these are, we're talking about, whether it's mood or depression, where you're finding that it actually, chronically seems to be affecting you, and where you can, use diet to change, to help you lift mood, feel better, get better energy, sleep better, and actually feel joyful on a daily basis.
Fantastic. So, there's so much information that's going around during lockdown. We are all getting so many videos, so many forwards, so many this, that, and the other. So we decided that we'll keep it very focused, this discussion, on three questions. So the first question, and I'm going to pose it to you, Sharda, is is there a simple dietary principle, something that just talks about the major food groups that can help us be in great mental health or great moods?
My first strategy is actually the number one is to balance your macros. And what do we mean by macros? We mean macronutrients, which are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. They have to be eaten in a certain ideal combination. And remember that combination or ratio is not fixed for everyone. I believe in the concept of bio-individuality, which means that we determine what is specific to a particular individual depending upon, your lifestyle, your life stage, your genetic history. So these are what will go to determine what is the amount of protein that you would need, which is very different from what somebody else may need. So using macros or balancing your macros is critical because Indian diet tends in general to be very, very carbohydrate driven. So at the center of our plate, even if you're a non-vegetarian, tends to be a rice or a roti, and the non-vegetarian dish, whether it's a chicken, an egg or fish, will come as a bowl on the side. Whereas if you look at the Western diet, when they talk about their center of plate, what's sitting at the center of their plate is meat, and the vegetables come on the side. Okay, so to me, fixing that ratio, one is, as far as carbohydrates are concerned, complex carbohydrates, which means more of vegetables, more of fruits like banana, for example, are fantastic for helping improve your moods. More of whole grains and millets. And then a very important thing for me is fat. The biggest issue that I find with all our clients is that people are, especially those people who are suffering from mood issues, often have very low levels of fat because they're coming from this fear that if I eat more fat, I'm going to put on weight. And there's so much focus on weight. And here's a myth that I want to dispel, that fat does not make you fat. It's actually carbohydrates, simple sugars, which make you fat or put on weight. Why is fat so important? 60% of our brain is made up of fat. And therefore, if we don't get fats, adequate amount of fats into our system, we're going to suffer from all the issues because the brain is going to be functioning suboptimally. And when I ask you to eat fat, it means get enough and good amount of ghee into your, daily meals, whether it's on your rice or on your roti. Never have a dry toast. Ensure that you slather it with good amount of butter. Add coconut is a great fat, which is so typical to Indian diets that we need to put in. Ensure that the food that you cook is in cold pressed oil and not refined oils. So these are ways, or then you can add on walnuts. So nuts and seeds, walnuts are a great source of fat. Eggs and salmon or fatty fish are again fantastic source of omega-3 fats. So these are all ways by which you add fats to your body, and fat is in 60% of the brain is made up of fat, and that's why I insist on fat. The other thing that I insist on and very much focus on is protein, because again we tend to undereat on protein even as a non-vegetarian, because I will hear people saying, "जी हम तो chicken हफ्ते में 2-3 बार खा लेते हैं." 2-3 बार is not adequate. If you're a client at Sepalika, we ensure that not just daily but every meal starts with a protein, right? Why? Because proteins break down into something called amino acids in our body, and the amino acids are what actually helps build neurotransmitters, which are chemicals in the brain which help the brain cells communicate to one another. So you need the protein for adequate functioning of the neurotransmitters in the brain. So good or complex carbohydrates, good fats and protein. To me, that's the number one, and it's the one thing that you do, you will see a significant improvement in somebody's moods and just feeling and emotions.
Fantastic. So just a balanced meal, just a regular balanced meal that has all of the major 3 macronutrients, which is proteins, carbohydrates and fats. And in that, even though traditionally, couple of points I want to just underline. While you did say that, for example, in India, the center of the plate is almost always a carbohydrate, whereas in the West, it is a protein in the center. It doesn't mean that the West doesn't have its share of mental problems. So there can be reasons beyond the macronutrients for sure. But what we do at Sepalika is to balance it out, because Indians tend to go much lower on protein and the West often tends to go very high on protein. And there the problem is they're simply not getting enough green vegetables, they're simply not getting enough fiber, they're not getting any of the micronutrients, right? So that brings us to the second point, which is what are the micronutrients, meaning there are vitamins, minerals and coenzymes which are important for mental health. So it's important for us to focus on those two.
Correct. You're absolutely right, Mahesh, because in all the work that I have done on studying this connection between nutrition, or how do we use nutrition to help come out of the very low levels of mood and mood swings or depression, I have found that using B vitamins, using vitamin D3, using minerals like zinc or magnesium are all very, very critical. And when we actually, and you're an expert in doing blood chemistry analysis, that and you've seen so many of these blood reports that we have for our clients at Sepalika, and we see in so many of these cases where we can make almost a direct correlation between these deficiencies and the their levels of let's say mood or let's say state of mind.
Absolutely. I think when we do the baseline testing, or when we do even a simple blood test, so we look at just standard vitamins D3, B12, iron, we often notice, so there is in research there is very deep connection that is proven between low levels of vitamin D3 and depression. Most of us simply don't get enough sunlight. Even if we get sunlight, then there are certain chemical transformations that happen in your body so that the D3 you get from the sun can finally be used in your body to improve your mood, to improve your immunity. Again, D3 is so crucial for immunity during corona times. So D3 for sure is one of those vitamins where many a times we prefer to supplement because it's very difficult to get from food, but it's a vital micronutrient. You look at the B vitamins, people come to us with deficient levels of B12 and they think vitamins are just nice to have. What we don't realize is that the term vitamin literally translates is a short form of vital amino acid, and what that means is amino acid is obviously something which is broken down from proteins, they are the building blocks, but here the term vital is used as a technical term. It means you cannot create it in your own body, so you must obtain it from food. So a vital amino acid or a vitamin is something that you simply can't do without. The same thing goes of the minerals you spoke about, so zinc and iron. In fact, I remember one of the ladies who was referred to us where the neurologist had literally said that they need to go on SSRIs or mood upping drugs for depression, or literally go on anticonvulsants because of headaches that couldn't be solved at all. All we looked at was their simple blood test report and we saw that their iron was low. You put back iron rich foods, you give iron supplements for a short period of time, and her mood turned around a complete 180 degrees. So it's pretty amazing what you can achieve through micronutrients in food when it comes to mood.
Mahesh, absolutely. And when you mentioned lady, it struck me that one of the things that we have, we see with a whole lot of women who come to us for hormonal health issues, at Sepalika, whether it's trying to, fix their PCOD or menopause. And, when I go through the intake form, in so many cases, you would have found, I have found people tick saying, when I ask them, what are your other symptoms? They would say, mood swings or depression, or, feeling very, very depressed. And, there is, and when you also look at what kind of medication they're currently on, we find that the doctors have actually put them on contraceptives, which actually goes ahead and worsens their moods, right? So this whole connection between hormonal health and moods is something that we have seen at Sepalika, and how we've used diet to actually just diet. Changing in the diet has brought about such a change in these symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, goes back to one of the points you made earlier, which is that food is the building block of everything, and cholesterol forms the building blocks of all the hormones. So if a lady is going through mood swings just before her period onset, and it isn't she's having that time of the month, we all dismiss it saying that, but what you don't realize is that women have been given this special ability from the Creator to say that every month you get a kind of read of how your health is doing. So a period is meant to come on without any symptoms, almost unknown to the lady, with no mood swings, no bloating, no headaches, no cravings, and so on. And yet we take it, every woman has been taught or brought up, to take it as part of normal course, that there will be symptoms. And because of this, then women get put on all kinds of pills, including hormonal pills, which are birth control pills. And it really breaks our heart when we see young girls put on psychiatric medication or put on hormonal pills just because they aren't getting the right nutrition, but the doctors aren't really trained to balance their nutrition to bring their hormones and moods back in balance. Instead, they simply bypass the entire hormonal system of the girl by giving her external estrogen and progesterone in the birth control pills. So many a time just fixing their diet is the correct solution.
Absolutely. And when you mention diet, this is what I want to tell our viewers, that one of the things that we do when young girls or even women who come to us with these mood swings related to a hormonal imbalance, we use this whole concept of seed cycling, where we seed cycling means during your monthly cycle, we ask you to eat a certain set of seeds, and that can have a huge impact on your mood. So let me just explain. In the first 14 days of your cycle, which is called the follicular phase, we recommend that our clients to eat, to have flax seeds and pumpkin seeds. And why? Because at this point in time, in the follicular phase, is when the body generally increases level of estrogen, and the flax seeds and the pumpkin seeds have certain fiber in them, which in turn help to boost the level of estrogen in your body. And in the second half of the cycle, which is called, the luteal phase, we recommend that you have sunflower seeds and sesame seeds. And these two seeds, together help boost the progesterone levels. So we use food and diet to help, move your hormones in a way that complements the way the body will move the hormones naturally. And just by doing this, we've seen, clients get off these mood uppers or SSRIs that you mentioned a little earlier. And all you've done with them is used diet to work on their.
Absolutely. I mean, and imagine, so beautiful what you mentioned about these two sets of seeds in the first 15 days and two sets of seeds in the next. So just so that nobody, watching this gets confused with any conflicting information, flax seeds are also used to control excess estrogen, but that works on a different mechanism. So what we are doing here is controlling, is sort of supporting the natural cycle of estrogen 15 days and progesterone 15 days. Another important dietary thing that we often find that women miss is one of caffeine use, and how much caffeine that you resort to during a period just before your actual first day of the period. So you may end up using a lot more coffee than before, coffee or tea or even chocolates. There is a deep craving that comes, but this again is due to a blood sugar fluctuation that's happening in the hormones, and there are natural ways to balance that out as well. Just using diet and going a little easy on those products during those crucial days just before your period onset can help your body cleanse itself naturally and ease into the period, rather than get into a very sharp way of entering into the period that then causes the cramping, the mood swings, and so on. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground on this, Sharda. I think we can is there a point that you wanted to make before we close?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. I just wanted to say that, I'd like people to look more and more at diet or food as medicine, almost like looking at it as it can be prescriptive in helping address a lot of mental health issues. So think about that and how it can, it's the way you would say whenever you have a heart issue, or when you have, let's say, a liver issue, or when you have a digestive issue, you relook at your diet, right? It's the same thing with the brain. It's a part of the human body, and the brain has cells, the brain has blood vessels, like the way the rest of the body does. And therefore, it's like your answers almost are lying in your kitchen. That's Absolutely. The point that I'd like to.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic point. And in fact, to underline that point further, the brain is the only organ that cannot store any food reserves by itself. So what you put into it at every meal literally matters for your brain's health, for your moods. So on that note, we'll be happy to take any questions that you may have. Please write into us, leave the your questions in the comment section. We'll get back to you. Remember, this isn't a live video, so we're not answering stuff live. It may take a day or so for us to come back, but we hope that we've opened up a healthy discussion on the connection between nutrition and mental health. We'll have more videos come this way. Ask us any specific subjects that you might want to touch, want us to touch upon in future videos. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be safe, be healthy, and we wish you vibrant health and well-being.